Hi everyone, welcome to WION Live broadcast with me, Susan Tehrani. We're coming to you live from New York City. It's Thursday and here are the headlines. Hamas delegation leaves Cairo after 3 full days of talks for a truce, blames Israel for lack of progress and thwarting efforts to conclude a deal. Hamas says, however, that it will continue ceasefire talks till an agreement is reached. Mass burial held in Rafah near the Gaza-Egypt border. Bodies of 47 Palestinians returned to Gaza by Israeli authorities. The overall death toll has crossed 30,700 as per the Hamas Health Ministry. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi warns Taiwan, says it will get burned for playing with fire, calls Taiwan's independence push the most destructive threat to peace in the strait. A Dutch report claims an Israeli tank crew fired shells at a clearly identified group of journalists in Lebanon in October and killed one of them while injuring another. It says they were also fired at with heavy machine guns. Pope Francis's poor health is in focus again after he asked an aide to read his speech for the second time this week. The 87-year-old has canceled a string of engagements over last week, stating poor health. And will Rafael Nadal get the perfect send-off that he so badly craves at the French Open? The 22-time champion pulls out of Indian Wells, saying he isn't ready. Former U.S. President Donald Trump has challenged his Democratic rival, incumbent President Joe Biden, to a debate. This comes as the two men head towards a White House rematch. Debate him. 81-year-old Joe Biden has been criticized for using cheat sheets while addressing the public and journalists. Americans say the use of notes is an attempt by the president to avoid another blunder on the main stage. All right, for more on this, we are being joined by Peter Kuznick from Washington, D.C. Peter is a professor of history at American University. Professor, thank you so much for joining us on WION. Welcome back. The question that many are asking now is, will President Biden accept former President Donald Trump's challenge? And if so, how might this debate play out?
The truth is, it's really too early to know. There's a long time between now and the election. Trump knew he was ahead and he decided not to. Right now, Trump thinks he's got an advantage over Biden. But if we go back to the 2020 campaign, when they did have 2 debates, the first debate was chaotic because Trump kept shouting over Biden, and Biden had a hard time getting a word in. Second debate was a little better. They were supposed to have a third debate, but they were going to have to do it remotely because of COVID, and Trump refused. Since then, the Republican National Committee has pulled out of the Commission on Presidential Debates. They did that 2 years ago. So we don't know. Now Trump says he'll debate him anywhere, or anytime, any place. But anywhere and any place are the same thing. I'm not sure. It doesn't even make sense what he said. However, clearly the Democrats are hesitant because Biden is a human gaffe machine. Trump is also a human gaffe machine. The other thing about Trump is that during his 4 years in the White House, the Washington Post cataloged over 30,000 lies that Trump told, more than 21 a day. And so Trump is so, he just makes things up. Biden at least tries to stick to the facts a little bit more than Trump does. So it would be quite a spectacle. The other thing to remember is that Biden turned down the offer to do an interview during the Super Bowl. This was a great opportunity for Biden to reach an enormous number of people, and Biden didn't take that opportunity. So that makes me think that he's very hesitant to engage in a format that he could be challenged. He wants to come across as being strong, as being vital, as being mentally sharp. But he is 81 years old. He will be 82 very by the time of the election, and he is not as sharp as he used to be. And even then, he used to make a lot of mistakes. So I doubt that they're going to have debates, but they might.
Yeah. Yeah, Professor, a lot to consider, but what's making headlines now, and all eyes are now on the State of the Union address by President Joe Biden. And I agree with you, by the way, regarding the interview with the Super Bowl. It's hard to imagine that they would send Joe Biden on stage with the former president for 45 minutes, an hour live TV. But now the State of the Union is upon us. What do you expect from President Biden?
I think if we're going to get a few things from Biden. First of all, he's going to emphasize all of his achievements. And when it comes to domestic policy, he's actually got a very strong record. So he can promote that and talk about, look what I've been able to accomplish, despite the fact that the Republicans are doing everything they can to sabotage me. Now, Bernie Sanders and others have urged him to become more of a progressive, stand up more for common working people in the United States who feel that they've been suffering, and to promote strong domestic policies that are going to help working people and attack the business interests who have been standing in his way. So I think we're going to see some of that. But the most important thing for Biden is to act and look like he's strong, like he's youthful. He might be old in age, but he wants to come across as young in ideas, young in a vision for America, that he's got some plan for where the United States is going. So he is the thing that will get him elected, if he is reelected, is that people are going to vote against Trump. It's a funny election in that there's not Trump's base is certainly pro-Trump. There's not a lot of strong pro-Biden sentiment out there, not a lot of enthusiasm for Biden's base. So what he's going to effectively do is get people to come out to vote because it's a vote against Trump. The idea that Trump says he's going to be a dictator on then effectively is going to tear up the Constitution. He's still running on the big lie that Biden stole the 2020 election. Most people, not aside from his MAGA base, are very aware that the election was not stolen in 2020. So what Biden's got to do is win back those constituencies that are crucial for his reelection, but that are not with him now. That includes young people. I see it with my students. They they deplore the U.S. blanket support for Israel. Every day they turn on the television, they see more images of civilians, women, children, old people being killed in Gaza by the Israelis with weapons and money supplied by the United States. They are not going to vote for Trump, but they are not going to vote for Biden, many of them either. Third party candidates, even a
Right,
Robert
Professor, and
Kennedy.
that's the question. How many people are going to stay home or they're going to go for third-party candidates? I'm so sorry to cut you off. I have to go right now, but I look forward to speaking to you again very soon on this subject and others.
Thank you.
Washington has sent tens of thousands of weapons, including bombs and precision-guided munitions, to Israel since Hamas's October 7th attacks. Current and former U.S. officials say U.S. has banked on procedures that have largely masked the scale of the administration's military support for its closest West Asia ally. Only two approved foreign military sales to Israel have been made public since the start of the conflict. The sales include $106 million worth of tank ammunition and around $147 million of components needed to make 155 millimeter shells. They invited public scrutiny because the Biden administration bypassed Congress to approve the packages by invoking an emergency authority. But in case of the 100 other transactions, the weapons transfers were processed without any public debate. And the Washington Post reports that this happened because each fell under the specific dollar amount that requires the executive branch to individually notify Congress. Keeping each one small meant that their content remains secret. But they are reported to have included precision-guided munitions, small diameter bombs, bunker busters, small arms, and other lethal aid. Taken together, the weapons package amount to a massive transfer of power, of firepower that is, and senior U.S. officials have complained that Israeli officials have fallen short on their appeals to limit civilian casualties and allow more aid into Gaza. U.S. President Joe Biden's administration faces growing calls from Democrats on Wednesday to push Israel to ease the devastating humanitarian crisis in Gaza. And some say they may try to stop military assistance if conditions for civilians do not improve. Van Hollen and others have called upon the administration to hold back military assistance if Israel doesn't take steps to such an opening crossing for aid shipment. The U.S. Arms Export Control Act gives Congress the right to stop a foreign major weapons sale by bypassing resolutions of disapproval, although no such resolution has both passed Congress and survived a presidential veto. An angry debate on the issue could embarrass the White House. Washington also has briefed Israel on a new national security memorandum that reminds countries receiving U.S. weapons to stick to international law. Separately, dozens of House of Representative Democrats released a letter to Biden on Wednesday. They expressed deep sense of urgency and alarm about the hardships faced by civilians in Gaza. The fall of Avdiivka has put Russia in a situation where it's intensifying its attacks against Ukraine as Russian troops are advancing further west. But to fight off the Russian aggression, Ukraine urgently awaits more weapons from the West. Our next report tells you how, in desperate times, Ukrainian soldiers are fighting Russian troops.
The war continues to haunt Europe and the world. For more than 2 years, Ukraine has been defending its border from the Russian aggression. But on the battlefield, the situation is getting more challenging for the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's troops. As the winter is about to wane, a new spring offensive is in the offing. Russia has intensified its attack in the Bakhmut direction in their attempt to advance in the Donetsk region. To thwart off the Russian aggression, for long, Ukraine has been using the long inventory of sophisticated weapons provided by its allies, the West. Now, the shortage of weapons is making things desperate for Ukrainians. The troops from Ukrainian Army's 56th Brigade are using a makeshift multiple launch rocket system to fire at Russian positions. This is a self-made multiple launch rocket system installed on a pickup truck to fire.
At the beginning of the war, our commandos saw inventive soldiers applying this type of weapon. It's not conventional, it's made from scrap materials. It has impressive characteristics. It is mobile, well maneuverable, and it is fast to unfold.
Off the battlefield, the major suppliers of ammunition for Ukraine have been interrupted by politics. Some in the US and Europe are starting to ask questions whether they can continue to throw their already stretched resources to help Kyiv. The US Congress is holding up a $60 billion military aid package, while the European powers are divided about using EU funds to purchase munitions outside the bloc. With the clock ticking, Ukraine still hopes and awaits help from its allies. Otherwise, the country could face a harsh reality, a prospect which terrifies the West. Bureau Report, WION World is One.